A laugh softly. You see, they thought they could play detective, didn't they? They drew up their warrants, whispered your name in dark rooms, and waited for the sirens. But the sirens never came, because you, my friend, are not the criminal. You're the ex-mystery they can't solve. The last suspect standing in a world of guilty faces. They ordered an arrest, but never announced it, because deep down, they fear what happens when the truth finally walks free. Tonight, you're not running, you're revealing. And that, my dear listeners, is when the real interrogation begins. They thought they could label you, box you, file you under, suspect, and move on with their little theories. But here's the problem. You don't fit in their case file. You never did. You're the piece of the puzzle that refuses to snap into place, the name that keeps reappearing in conversations they can't close. You're not the criminal. You're the contradiction. You're the proof that their system of assumptions doesn't always work, and that terrifies them. Because control only exists when everything can be predicted. And you, my friend, are unpredictable by design. They whisper your name not out of accusation, but out of fascination. You confuse them. You move differently. While they follow orders, you follow instinct. While they need validation, you live by conviction. You don't seek permission. You embody purpose. And that's why they fear you. Not because you did something wrong, but because you do something they can't. You think freely. In a world obsessed with obedience, free thought is rebellion. And rebellion, when rooted in truth, becomes power. They call you the last suspect because they've investigated everyone else and found nothing that makes sense. You remain the variable that can't be explained. It's not because you hide. It's because you shine in a way that exposes their blindness. When the world builds its hierarchy on lies, anyone standing in truth becomes a threat. You're not dangerous for what you've done. You're dangerous for what you represent. Authenticity, integrity, resilience. Qualities that cannot be bought, bribed, or broken. They can't categorize that, so they call it suspicion. They want to know why you don't fold under pressure, why you keep smiling when the rumors spread, why you're still standing when the verdicts never come. It's because deep down, you understand something they don't. Power doesn't come from being accepted. It comes from being unshakably yourself. The very traits they mock are the ones that protect you. The confusion they feel isn't your curse. It's their mirror. Every time they look at you, they see what they could have been if they hadn't chosen comfort over courage. See, when they can't define you, they'll try to confine you. That's what control does. It needs a label to exist. If they can't call you guilty, they'll call you crazy. If they can't shame you, they'll try to silence you. But the truth doesn't need to scream to be heard. It just needs to stand. And you've been standing, quietly, consistently, unapologetically. That's why the arrest was ordered but never announced. Because if they speak your name too loudly, people might start asking why someone so strong, so aware, so awake, is being hunted at all. You're not supposed to exist in their narrative. You're supposed to break it. You're the living evidence that the system of whispers and lies has cracks. You don't fit into their investigation because your story was never meant to be written by them. You're not the suspect. You're the truth they're trying to bury under false reports. They fear you not because you hide in shadows, but because you walk through them unbothered, like light disguised as chaos. What they don't realize is that every accusation has only made you stronger. Every rumor has refined your silence. Every attempt to define you has taught you to be infinite. You've learned to move like smoke, visible yet untouchable. They can follow your trail, but they'll never catch your essence. Because you don't live to be understood. You live to be real, and real ones, no matter how much the world investigates them, always remain the greatest mystery. So let them keep their files open, their theories wild, their discussions endless. Because while they're busy decoding your existence, you're busy becoming exactly what you were meant to be. Unstoppable. They don't understand that some souls are uncontainable. Some stories are unsolved not because they lack answers, but because they are the answer. You are that story, the one they can't finish, the name they can't erase, the truth they can't silence. They ordered an arrest, yes. But how do you imprison something that was born to expose the prison itself? You are the unsolved mystery that reminds them control is an illusion. That power without truth collapses. And every time you rise, every time you refuse to break, you remind them why they fear you, because you can't be defined, confined, or denied. You are the last suspect, because you are the only one left uncorrupted. And in a world built on deception, that makes you the most dangerous soul alive. They never announced it, but you could feel it. The tension, the whispers, the quiet fear in their eyes. They wanted to cage you, label you, make you the villain in their neatly written story, but they hesitated. Why? Because deep down, they realized something terrifying: the truth was never on their side. You didn't need to fight back. Your very existence exposed every lie they built. That's what real truth does. It doesn't scream, it simply stands. Unshaken, undeniable, unbothered. You see, when people can't control you, they fear you. And when they fear you, they try to destroy your reputation before you can destroy their illusion. They twist your silence into guilt and your strength into arrogance. But here's the irony. They don't actually hate you. They hate how you mirror their own weakness. Every time they attack you, it's because your presence reminds them of what they've buried: honesty, courage, and the cost of pretending. You are the reflection they can't face without trembling. They never announced your arrest, because deep down, they knew the truth couldn't be shackled. They feared that if they made it public, the spotlight would turn, and the world would see them for what they are. That's what fear does when faced with truth. It hides, it plots, it whispers, but it never conquers, because truth doesn't need to be loud to win. It just needs to exist. And your existence alone has become their undoing. You've learned something powerful: silence isn't weakness, it's strategy. You let them talk, accuse, and assume, because while they were spreading stories, you were building your strength. While they were watching you, you were watching them. Truth doesn't panic, it observes. And you observed long enough to understand that it isn't always an explosion. Sometimes it's the quiet realization that the loudest people in the room have the most to hide. They called you dangerous not because of what you did, but because of what you know. You know that truth dismantles lies without effort. You know that integrity, once seen, cannot be unseen, and that's your real weapon. Your unshakable calm in the face of accusation. While they build cases, you build character. While they chase control, you stand in clarity. That's the difference between their fear and your power. Theirs depends on deception, yours thrives on truth. Understand this. Being misunderstood is the tax you pay for being real in a counterfeit world. They wanted you to break, to beg, to defend yourself. But you stayed silent, not because you were weak, but because you knew. You knew that time exposes everything. And when it does, it doesn't shout. It simply reveals. You don't have to prove your innocence. Your peace already does that for you. They didn't announce the arrest, because announcing it would mean admitting defeat. It would mean facing the uncomfortable truth that they can't destroy what they didn't build. They didn't create your strength, your name, your faith, so they can't touch it. And that's what scares them most. You became a mirror they can't shatter, a truth they can't twist, a storm they can't silence. In a world addicted to appearances, you chose authenticity. And authenticity will always look like rebellion to those who live in lies. Let them investigate. Let them whisper. You are the calm in their chaos, the proof that truth doesn't flinch. The arrest order may have been written, but it was never executed, because even they knew, you can't imprison the truth. You can only delay it. And that delay, it's their fear, not your failure. So stand tall even when the world points fingers, because those who fear your truth will always disguise their panic as power. But you know better now. The truth doesn't fight, it reveals. And when it does, every falsehood crumbles quietly under its own weight. You are that truth. The silent revelation they never saw coming. The final chapter they were too afraid to write. They thought the investigation would end with your confession. They wanted to see you crumble, to watch you admit guilt you never carried. But instead of running, you stood. You didn't fight the lies with rage. You exposed them with your composure. That's when the tables turned. That's when they realized this wasn't a story about their victory. It was a story about your becoming. You see, transformation doesn't happen when the world celebrates you. It happens when the world attacks you and you refuse to become the victim. You could have played their game. You could have cried, begged, or tried to explain. But you didn't. You let your silence do what their words could never. Reveal the truth. Because transformation doesn't require an audience. It requires endurance. You learned that pain isn't punishment. It's purification. Every false accusation burned away what was weak, leaving behind only what was real. They tried to shame you, but all they did was shape you. They thought they were burying you, but they were really planting you. And now, you've grown into something they can't recognize. Power in human form. That's the beauty of revelation. It doesn't arrive in peace, it arrives through pressure. You don't get diamonds without fire. You don't get truth without trials. Every attack, every rumor, every betrayal, it all served a purpose. It peeled away the layers of fear that once made you doubt yourself. It forced you to stop looking for validation and start trusting your own reflection. That's when the shift happened. That's when the so-called suspect became the symbol of survival. When you finally reveal who you truly are, you don't need to announce it. The same people who mocked you will see it, and they'll fall silent. Because revelation doesn't come with noise. It comes with undeniable presence. Your strength speaks louder than any defense ever could. They can't deny what stands right in front of them. A soul that walked through accusation, humiliation, and isolation, and came out untouched. That's not luck. That's divine orchestration. You turned every whisper into a weapon, and every scar into a story. The more they questioned you, the more you discovered yourself. That's the irony. They thought they were investigating your downfall, but really, they were documenting your rebirth. You became something ungoverned by their opinions, unshaken, undefeated, untamed. Transformation is messy. It's painful. It's confusing. But when you embrace it instead of resisting it, you stop reacting to your enemies and start evolving beyond them. They called you the last suspect, but what they didn't realize is that you were the last one standing. Everyone else broke under pressure. You didn't. You endured the test and became the lesson. Now your silence teaches louder than their gossip. Your presence exposes every fake smile and false claim. That's the power of revelation. It doesn't need permission to shine. It just does. So understand this. Your transformation was never meant to make sense to them. It was meant to show them that what they tried to destroy was indestructible. You didn't survive to prove them wrong. You survived to prove what's right about you. That's what makes them uncomfortable. You rose without revenge, healed without applause, and stood without fear. You became the walking truth, and truth, once revealed, can never be unspoken again. They wanted a suspect. What they got was a survivor. They wanted a confession. What they got was conviction. You didn't play the victim because you knew the story wasn't over. The real plot twist was never your downfall. It was your transformation. And now, every eye that once looked down on you must look up to see how high you've risen. You are the revelation they never saw coming. The proof that what's done against you can still work for you. And that's not just power. That's poetic justice.